Tony Corpy.
Here.
Tina Sather.
Here.
Roxanne Skoksa-Deach.
Here.
Joanne Smith. Here. Beth Shimon.
Here.
All right, we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
A motion. I'll second.
Motion by Jessica and second by Tina to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion, additions, subtractions?
So tonight I did email you about a couple of the additions for tonight's agenda. One is a modification to the school district calendar, which I'll talk more about in my superintendent's speech, in addition to the bond sales, which went out this morning. That has been rectified by our district attorney, and you will see that added to our agenda. And we do have Ellers here who will present on that this evening. Those are the two minor changes.
Anything else? All right. I have a motion by Jessica and second by Tina to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Open forum, sale day report for general obligation facilities maintenance bonds, series 2026A presentation.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Do you all have a copy of the sale day report in front of you?
Yep, they do, Jen.
Okay, perfect. Then I'll just walk through that here. We have great news to share for you. We had awesome results this morning for the sale of general obligation facilities maintenance bonds. We received 6 bids this morning, and the low bid came in at 3.8182% for the interest rate. And so we were very pleased with that result, as that was under that pre-sale amount, which was the estimated interest rate at that time was a little over 4%. So we're well under that and very happy with these results today. So just to circle back, the purpose of the financing is to finance the health and safety, indoor air quality, and roofing projects that were included in the district's 10-year facility plan, which has been approved by the Commissioner of Education. As a part of the process of the bond issuance, the district was rated. And so you received the A stable underlying rating along with the AAA rating, the state of Minnesota's AAA rating for participating in that Minnesota Credit Enhancement Program. The A stable rating was affirmed, and so that was just great news for the district as well. So no movement on the rating. It was affirmed as it was with the previous issuance as well. So as I mentioned, there were 6 bids this morning, and BOK Financial Securities out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin was the low bidder. The high bidder at 3.9919 was TD Financial out of New York. And so you can see kind of how tight those bids came in, from 3.8 up to 3.9, and 6 bids all fitting from the start to the finish there. So a nice competitive spread for the district this morning. There's a summary of sale results there for you that you can just reference. Just got some highlights of the sale results this morning. Bond Trust Services Corporation will be the paying agent on the bonds. You are required to have a paying agent when you participate in the Minnesota Credit Enhancement Program. And so that is why you will see that there under the notes. And then something else to keep in mind too is that these bonds will be callable. So any of the bonds maturing February 1 of 2035 and thereafter will be able to look at the market in the fall of 2033 leading into 2034 there. And we can just pay attention to the interest rates at that time. If they are lower, then you will be able to refinance these bonds for savings. But we will continue to monitor the market at that time, and we'll keep you informed if there's any potential refundings or refinancings. The closing date is September 10th, and that's when the bond proceeds will be available for the district to use for the projects. And then tonight, the school board will take action to adopt the resolution awarding the sale of the bonds. We've got some attachments listed here to the sale day report, so I will just walk through those briefly, as most of them are updated from the pre-sale report, so you would have seen those already, and now they've just been updated with the sale results. So the first attachment is your bid tabulation. That just shows BOK as the low bidder, and then it shows you everyone else's bid, the 5 other bids this morning and what that true interest rate was presented at that time. Then the next attachment is the updated sources and uses of the funds, and so we just walked this all the way back to the school building bonds and then laid that out moving forward here, and this is your last issuance to wrap up the big school building bond project. So you've got kind of your historical reference there, and then the new bonds are out to the right, the indoor air quality portion and the roofing portion. And one here is the estimated project costs. We're at 2.5 million. And you now, with the lower interest rate, we're able to have an initial deposit to the construction fund of 2.535. So, about $35,000 more for projects with that nice low interest rate this morning. The next schedule is the principal and interest payment schedule on the bonds. So we have 3 pages for this. We have the issue summary, which is a combined schedule of principal and interest schedule. And then we have it broken out between the 2 portions. So we have the indoor air quality portion and the roofing portion. So you can see that those are August and February payments, with principal payments being made on the February date. And this moves all the way out to 2043. So the roofing portion goes through 2037, and the indoor air quality portion goes through 2043. And then the respective interest rates are listed at the bottom of each of those pages. And then we updated the long-term plan for you as well, which shows your existing commitments that the district already has. It shows both of these new board-approved bonds coming on, the health and safety indoor air quality portion and the roofing bond portion, and then what the combined totals are off to the right-hand side. So overall, this is 17 tax levies at 2.52 million, a 2.52 million bond issue. The next page is just really a visual of what I was just explaining, and so that is in the bar chart form. The gray bars that are on the bottom, that's your existing debt. And then we have the indoor air quality and the roofing portions coming on in the blue and the orange. And then you'll see a dotted dashed box, and you had some debt service funds on hand, previously levied amount that was able to be used to make some of those first interest payments. And so that's what that box is indicating there. The last document that we have included here is the rating report from S&P. So if you recall, I said that the district their underlying rating was affirmed at an A, and that is looking stable. And then you also received that AAA rating from the state of Minnesota for participating in the credit enhancement program. And so that is just great news for the district. Some credit highlights under there. They were just saying that the robust available fund balances that compare favorably with those of similarly rated peers, and your manageable debt profile with no additional near-term debt plans were some of the positives and reasoning for that A stable outlook. So great representation of the administration at this point and the finances for the district. Did anybody have any questions?
Jen, this is Jessica Crosby. I just want to make it crystal clear to anybody watching, and please reaffirm that this isn't anything in addition to what we had already planned. This was part of the plan with all the construction and everything.
This is financing that is a part of the larger school building bond project that the district has is in progress.
Right, okay. Just want to make it clear because it's very confusing.
Yes, it's a part of your project.
Any other questions? All right. No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to number 2, request of renaming the track.
So Casey, we need to pull that other link up. So will the other group be able to stay on, Casey?
They should be able to.
Okay.
There we go. I think I've admitted you now. This is Tim. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Tim.
Good evening, Tim. This is Beth Strimel, the superintendent. We do have you pulled up on our smart board. There are a number of people in the room for our school board meeting this evening, so please know that you now have the floor.
There we go. I think I've admitted you now. This is Tim. Hi. All right, terrific.
Tim, you can go ahead and get started. Welcome.
Well, thank you, and thanks for your time. My name is Tim Ostrude. I'm a 1978 graduate of Falls High. My dad, Dick Ostrude, taught English for many, many years up there, and he was the track coach for, I don't know, somewhere around 30 years himself. Over the years, a lot of the track alumni have stayed in touch. I left town in 1980 and have only been back to visit. I have not moved back, but a lot of us track runners have stayed in contact throughout the years, and several times people have talked to me about my dad and what happened with the track program up there. And there was sort of an informal consensus among some of the people that we should make this proposal. The specific proposal that I made was to name the track itself the Richard Dick Ostrude track. Presently, the entire complex there is named the Walt Sheila Field, and Walt Sheila was certainly a legend that I was aware of, and I would not propose renaming the entire thing. Our thought was simply to name the track facility itself after my dad. My dad won a number of championships when he was up there, many of them without a track. We went for years and years and years without a track and field facility. We practiced in the hallways of the high school or on the field next to the arena, wherever we could get some room. My dad lobbied for years and years and years to build a track, but that was an expensive proposition. Finally, after a number of years under Superintendent Roberts, we were able to get a track. My dad was instrumental in that process. He was instrumental in helping raising some extra money. He went out to Boston and met with the builders of the track facilities, and he worked with them to design a track that would both hold up to the winters up in International Falls and would be a facility that would last for years and years. And we finally got it built. My dad has been inducted into the Falls High School Hall of Fame, and he has also been inducted as a member of the Minnesota State High School Track and Field Coaches Association Hall of Fame. So that's kind of a quick background on what we proposed. And I told the friends that I've been speaking with that I would write up the proposal. And we want it to be simple. We're not looking for, a bronze statue or anything like that. Perhaps just stencil the name on the track or a very simple plaque. And any expenses that might come with that, I've gotten assurances from a number of people that donations to cover that from track and field athletes and others that knew my dad would not be a problem. So that's my brief introduction, and I'd certainly entertain any questions or give you any other information that you might think you might need.
Any questions?
I have one. I should know this because I've been here forever, but the track itself has never been renamed then. This would be the first time that we've named the track itself, correct?
That's certainly the way I understand it. Like I say, you've got the track there and the entrance way, and the baseball field is over there. And I know that there's signage across the top that says Walt Sheila Field. And we would certainly want that left there. He was quite a guy.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? All right, we are going to have our athletic committee consider the proposal and then bring it back to the board for vote.
Sounds terrific. I appreciate your time, and I certainly appreciate your consideration.
Thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
Have a good
All right,
evening.
sorry I couldn't be there in person. I was looking forward to another trip up.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, we will move on to public open forum. I have two requests. Is there any other requests before we start? Okay, just to let you know, we are limiting time to 3 to 5 minutes per person. We usually don't respond. If there's any questions or whatever, usually we do those outside of this. It's just public comment for you to address any issues that you have to the board. So we will start with Megan. You would like to come up and present?
Members of the school board. As a parent and a community member, I would like to express my displeasure on how late the calendar has been given to the community. If you had not checked the agenda as of 3 p.m. today, you would not have known it was being discussed. Anyone who would have wished to be here for the discussion would not have known it was being discussed. I feel that you are not being very transparent, in which you guys say all the time you are being transparent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Reagan.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. My name is Reagan Billman, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the
parents of the freshman class that have been in honors math courses for the past 2 years. I come to you this evening not just as a concerned parent, but as a concerned educator. I have taught pre-algebra through calculus for the past 26 years, 23 of those years in Little Fork alongside my husband, Derek, who has taught earth science through physics. What I'm sharing with you this evening comes from years of experience and is not just emotionally driven. We received an email from Ms. Tate this past Thursday that explained to us why our children will not be in an honors geometry course this year. After reading the email, I reached out to your district math teachers to hear their perspective. I learned they were not a part of this decision to remove honors 9th grade, nor do they support it. What's ironic to me is that this year's 8th graders are being given the chance to take honors geometry, but our 9th grade group is not. Even though our 9th graders have had a full year more of advanced algebra, which would allow them to thrive in an honors geometry course this year. After speaking with your teachers, I reached out to Ms. Tate via email to share my concerns with her. You each should have received a copy of that email that I sent to her, along with her email that she sent us as well. In her email, Ms. Tate assured us that, quote, their goal is not simply to change course names, but to create a mathematics sequence that provides students with a coherent progression of learning while maintaining opportunities for students who are ready to move through that progression at an accelerated pace. Falls High School, has had a rich tradition of providing outstanding educational opportunities for advanced learners. They leave the school well prepared to step into any STEM field and often excel beyond their peers in college. That was the experience of both my parents, my siblings, myself, my husband, many of the parents you see here this evening, along with our own daughter, Jillian. It was likely the case for some of you on the board as well as some of your children. We as parents are deeply concerned that our children are being shortchanged. Not only are they losing the opportunity to take honors math this year, they also have taken away honors English for 9th and 10th graders this year for the first time as well. Our 9th grade children have already spent last year taking English from someone not licensed in ELA, not to fault that instructor. And for many of them as 9th graders this year, that will be the same reality for at least one trimester. It will be for my son, Jens, and I understand there are 36 in that group as well. It has also been brought to my attention that with the retirement of Ms. Jackson, Falls High School is no longer offering physics, yet another course that truly is necessary to be adequately prepared to pursue STEM fields. The loss of these valuable, rigorous courses will have a cumulative effect on our children's future, and it's incredibly unfortunate and disappointing. All I want is for my son to be given the same opportunities that my daughter and so many others before him were given, as do all of these parents sitting here this evening. I realize moving to a trimester system adds many challenges with scheduling, but for the sake of this group of kids, is it really equitable to say they no longer deserve to benefit from what every group before them has? I don't believe it is, and I'm asking you to please reconsider these changes. And as Ms. Tate stated, to continue to maintain opportunities for students who are ready for an accelerated pace. Will it be an easy fix? No. Is it doable? I do believe it is. My husband and I have helped work alongside our administration to adjust our master schedule for the past 5+ years in order to accommodate student needs or eliminate student schedule conflicts. We're so grateful that our opinion is valued and we are included in decision-making and what is ultimately best for all students. This often happens during our workshop week right before the school year begins. It just takes some time and diligence, and ironically, it becomes a great math problem to solve, and you are blessed with some incredible math teachers, and I believe they could help you figure it out. As an educator myself, I know your teachers will do the very best they can to differentiate to meet the needs of all learners. I'm also not naive to the need for engaging electives that boost student attendance or courses that help your struggling learners. However, the advanced students cannot be left behind. They deserve equal opportunities as well. Please stand in the gap for this group of students. Don't force parents to have to consider alternative options. I don't think any of us want to. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks. All right,
Thank you.
we'll move on to committee and administrative reports. Mrs. Tate?
Actually, I'm gonna go first, so I can do these as a worker.
Oh,
Principal West cannot be with us this evening, but one of the things that I did ask our administrative teams to do is to put together a few highlights as we get ready to open up the school year. So Lisa wanted to make sure that the school board knew tonight about some of her priority areas that she'll be working on with her staff this upcoming school year. And many of the highlights that you see this evening by the administrative team is based on our strategic plan follow-up. So the original strategic plan that you worked on with former Superintendent Grover, we brought the team back with the new administrators, new superintendent. What we did is we took time to go back out to our stakeholders, to interview our students, to interview our families, and a lot of this was conducted through some narratives, but also regarding some surveys that we pushed out. The information was also pushed out to our staff and our administrative leaders. So some of the areas that you'll see tonight really are focusing on a culture, a community culture and climate of care. And what is really important to our families and our students and our staff is that the inclusion of all students and adults that are part of our school district family are embedded not only into the way that they learn, but also into the social emotional component of their experience with Falls ISD 361 overall. Part of the projections of our priority areas includes what is called MTSS. It's an acronym for multi-tiered systems of support. And what that means is our district leadership teams and our support teams come together. They look at data that includes academic performance. They look at what student outcomes are happening when it comes to their benchmark assessments, in addition to some of those formative and summative assessments academically. But we also start looking at a higher level of school attendance. And though we continue to work on school attendance as a priority for our school district, we continue to see the trend that we have a significant chronic absenteeism problem in our school district as a whole, from preschool all the way through 12th grade. And though it may not seem like it's a big deal to some, it is a very big deal when we start having children out of our classrooms anywhere from 12 absences on. We start seeing students fall behind, not only academically, but also socially and emotionally in making pure relationships and friendships. So when we start looking at this as a collective whole, you will see me, I want to make sure I have the opportunity to present that information to our staff first before I release it to the public. So what I have done is I've created this historical data hub, and that will be presented at the September school board meeting. And we're going to look at approximately the last 6 years in student performance. So we're going to start looking at math, we're going to start looking at reading, we're going to start looking at science, we're going to start looking at attendance, we're going to look at behavior and discipline referrals, out of school suspension. In addition to what we're going to start doing is we're going to be looking at what demographics this covers. So the Minnesota Department of Education has highlighted ISD 361 as being performing below proficiency, especially in how we service our students who receive special education services, in addition to our American Indian students. In addition to the chronic absenteeism, which is one of the reasons we see some of the low test scores that we see when it comes to our Minnesota comprehensive assessments. And so we're going to talk about that as a collective whole, and it's not to highlight areas that we're struggling in, it's how can we do better as a school district. So part of this goes back to what Lisa wanted us to talk about this evening, is that for our students and the families who sent our students to Falls Elementary, what was very important to them is that they feel that there's a deep sense of belonging in their school community. They want their kids to want to come to school. They want to know that when their students are in our schools, that they are safe, and that we are putting not only a highlight on academics, but also who students are individually. The second area that was highlighted for Falls Elementary was regarding student and family engagement. And as a whole for ISD 361, that I would say is one of our 4 pillars that we have to focus on, is engaging our community and our families within our schools, which I believe the administrative team, in addition to our staff, are really going to be working on for this upcoming school year. So when we take a look at this, we're talking about how can we bring our community within our school walls, but also how can we take ownership in the things that are happening with our schools and with our students and with our families. So also bringing opportunities to our kids that not only are housed in the International Falls area, but extending well beyond the International Falls area. So when we think about students going to Starbase, when we think about area experts coming into our schools and working with our students, when we think about hands-on learning experiences, one area that came up was getting well beyond worksheets, making sure that kids have project-based learning happening in the elementary school. In addition to, we are building on a new literacy program, literacy materials this year, which will have all new reading curriculum for the upcoming school year for our students. And making sure that we have curriculum that's aligned to the Minnesota Department of Education standards and making sure it's current and we're not operating on old curriculum. So as Principal West gets ready for the next school year, we've had a lot of bumps in the road with the construction. It's created a lot of barriers for us as a school district, but I always go back to it's an anomaly of a year. We're gonna get back on track and we'll set that pace and we'll have that high standard of an educational experience for our students. She wanted to be here this evening. She wants you to know that enrollment is up for Falls Elementary. We have a significant number of students that are either returning to the district and or homeschool families that are coming back to the district because of some of the exciting things that are happening. We have a number of families that have moved into the area, and so we're really watching those class sizes closely. Our fourth grade is still our hot grade right now when we look at classroom sizes, but we are very appreciative to the patience that the community has extended us, and we're really looking forward to the next school year. So if you have questions, you can certainly ask me. Otherwise, Principal West says to reach out to her at any time. She'll be returning on Wednesday.
Okay, I'll highlight some of the areas that are happening at Falls High School. We'll start with talking about some of the stuff that's happening with the renovations. We have some new student spaces coming, just focusing again on Bronco Pride and belonging. Some of the student spaces we have coming, we have an expanded junior senior lounge coming in the cafeteria. The cafeteria is being renovated to offer more free flow, just give them more freedom and flexibility. Some more flexible seating in the cafeteria. We're going to be working with CAPE to create a game room that's right off the cafeteria. And then we have a new concession area and a new Bronco Power Store to strengthen our school identity and pride. And all of that will be front facing in the cafeteria, so visitors and guests can see that when they're coming into games and that sort of thing. So just increasing our Bronco pride and working on those things and making spaces that kids want to be at and spend time at. We still are behind the scenes working on our project to expand our wellness center, which is again just another area and space to enhance our spaces for our kids to be at while they're at school. Otherwise, the other stuff that happened at Falls High School, also the CTE expansion happened. There's another picture of that coming. That was primarily one of the bigger things that happened at Falls High School. Those shop areas were expanded so they can do bigger projects in there. And then the high school got things like HVAC, some of those not so glamorous things, but things that you have to have in a school to keep things functioning, and a new beautiful sprinkler system that the state said we had to have. So those are the things that are happening at Falls High School. For engagement, instruction, and support, we too are going to be continuing to work on explicit instruction at Falls High School to increase student engagement. As we move to a trimester schedule, our schedule is changing, so we'll have 5-period classes, or 5 periods in the day, so kids will focus on 5 periods rather than 7. Each class period will be 67 minutes long, and then we'll have a 25-minute advisory. And then during advisory, the whole high school will be doing advisory at the same time. And during that time, we'll be focusing on social emotional learning one of the days. And then we'll be looking at student work. And then teachers will be calling
parents, we want to increase our communication to families. That's something that I've heard a lot from families, is that when kids are not doing well, they're not hearing from us. So we want to make sure that you're hearing from us, and we want to make sure that kids have a chance to get caught up before it gets too late. So that'll be happening. They're going to be doing something called a Bronco Success Tracker during that advisory time, and that's where kids will set goals. They'll look at their missing work. They'll look at their work that they have done, their grades, and they'll set themselves some goals, and then we'll revisit those on Friday, along with some intervention time. Let's see. So I talked about advisory and family communication.
Missy, do you mean every Friday you'll revisit?
The Bronco Success Tracker, yes, when we're in session, unless there's something going on like homecoming week or something like that, then we might use that time for something else. We might also use that, we will use that time for our fast bridge testing and things like that, announcements, logistical things, so we can get some of that out of our core classrooms too. Here's a picture of the back of the shop wing. You can see that this was actually last year as they were finishing that up. Mr. Wood's Wood Class Building Trades, they built a shed that a gentleman in the community purchased. So that was pretty cool that they got to build that. They got to work on the electrical and all that stuff. So that was a good experience for them. Through our trimester schedule, we've been able to add 26 new electives for this year, which has provided a lot of student choice for our kids. We've added 15 additional CIS courses. That includes our past offerings that we had. And then, of course, we have the Associate of Arts degree and the Minnesota Transfer curriculum you can get in-house too. Like, we would not have been able to do that if we stayed on a 7-period day. So this has definitely given us more flexibility to give our kids more opportunities to try different things. We have a wildlife management class this year. We have some forestry classes. We have some geology classes, just like a whole plethora of new classes if you didn't get a chance to look at the student registration book.
Missy, by saying 15 additional CIS classes, you can 15 additional colleges and school classes.
Yes.
That are gonna qualify for credit for college.
Right. Yes, CIS stands for College and Schools. That's correct.
And so, kids or students can take those along with their core classes too. So if they wanted to take, let's say, an extra math class, they could if they wanted to.
Yep. So each student can take up to 15 classes, right? And juniors and seniors are the only ones who would take less than 15 because they are able to take study hall. 7th through 10th grade are not taking study hall. So the 11th and 12th graders, they can take all of these classes, and then there's still additional room for electives if they wanted to explore some other classes and still get their AA. The seniors this year, they really could only get the Minnesota Transfer curriculum because they didn't have as many classes last year. So because I think in AA is like 60 credits and Minnesota Transfer curriculum is 40. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Any other questions about that? Okay. And we'll just talk a little bit about, we appreciate your feedback. I do appreciate hearing from parents and hearing from you, Reagan. I do appreciate that. And we continue to have conversations about the feedback that you're giving. I just want to explain a few things that I do feel are important to mention. So what happened is the math department wants to make a change in their sequence in programming, right? Because they want to align with the new math standards that are coming out, and they feel like it will be better aligned if they move where geometry is in the sequence. So when that happens, this becomes that transition year that those 9th graders, all 9th and 10th graders are taking geometry, with the exception of the 10th graders that already took geometry last year. Like, they will go to Algebra 2. Just like this year, or next year, the 9th graders that would be originally in the honors geometry class, they will go to Algebra 2 next year. That accelerated pathway will continue. The reason why that label really was taken off that is because everybody was taking 9th and 10th grade or geometry. All 9th and 10th graders were taking it, except for, like I said, that exception of that group, the 10th graders that had already taken geometry because they go to Algebra 2. And then there's an 8th grade group that will take geometry because they haven't had it yet. It's that accelerated pathway, right? So basically those 9th graders are still having the geometry but the other 9th and 10th graders are also having geometry. After
I see
receiving,
when you mean the label taking off.
like the honors geometry, the honors portion.
Okay.
So, Reagan, when I got your feedback, we were able to look at schedules over the weekend and we did move all of the honors kids into the same class. Although it's not solely those kids. There are still a few other kids that are not that have not been tracked with those kids, I would say. We'll continue to revisit this conversation. I do think there are some benefits that we still have. One being we have one math teacher that's teaching all of the geometry. So he's going to know kind of where everybody is and allow differentiation and challenges. Let's see what else. Yeah, and then next year, again, they will go right back to Algebra 2. So it really is not that an opportunity is being taken away. This is just a transitional year as we adjust that sequence, because obviously there has to be, when you're changing a sequence, there has to be a transition year where two classes are taking that course.
Missy, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So I get that there has to be a transition here. I totally understand that. And I'm glad that you made the effort to put all the kids that were in honors math last year in one classroom. So theory being that, I'm just kind of extrapolating here, the theory being then that the teacher that's, I'm assuming it's Mr. Boyle, would teach a more accelerated level in that classroom? Is that kind of the expectation? So the kids will, rather than it being labeled an honors class, but they still will be moving at a faster pace?
I think he would challenge them as he needs to, as they are showing that they're ready. I think that's what we hope that happens in all of our classes, right?
I know, but
Kids are challenged.
being realistic, and I'm
Yes.
not trying to be negative Nancy, but being realistic, the teachers spend a good portion of their time, it's the old rule. You spend 80% of your time with 10% of the people, right?
Right.
It's the same as being in corporate business and management. You spend 80% of your time with 10% of the kids. So teachers are spending a lot of time just getting kids to where they need to be for testing. So like I said, I'm really glad that you moved all those kids into one classroom. That makes sense to me. But I would say we have to have a plan to make sure that that classroom is a little bit more accelerated.
Yep. And we'll continue to have this conversation and watch the progress of this class, because we can always adjust it second trimester too, if we need to. I mean, and maybe we'll make more adjustments before we come back to the board too. I don't know. I mean, we'll continue to have more conversation.
Well, I just think we need to work with Mr. Boyle and make sure that that class, that's the plan, and that they stay a little more accelerated.
I have a question, and because I'm not familiar, we didn't have AP stuff at my school when I was growing up, but so what is the difference between AP geometry and regular geometry?
Well, I'm new to the high school too, but I mean, in my understanding is that it is like the accelerated pathway, right? Like it's not necessarily a different curriculum, but you're taking it a year early. Like that's what the honors track is. It's not a different curriculum, but you're taking that course a year early.
Right. So technically, if, let's say, I'm just going to say, if I had a student that was taking geometry this year, could I have them also take, let's say, Algebra 2 as the college and the schools class to get even further ahead if I wanted to?
No,
They wouldn't, not at that age, no.
No.
Like we have some kids who are taking Algebra 2 this year as juniors, and then they're going to take Algebra 1 or college algebra at third trimester. That's something that trimester schedule has allowed us to do, because there are some kids that weren't in the honors track. If you're in the honors track, you take Algebra 2 as a 10th grader. But if you're not, then you take it as a junior, and we have some juniors who are interested in taking college algebra, so we're able to offer that as third trimester, and those juniors will take Algebra 2, and then they'll take college algebra third trimester.
So when you're in 10th grade, then you have the option to take those classes, right? Or is it 11 classes? It's only 11.
College in the schools is only for juniors and seniors.
Okay. So you could take like trig and stats and pre-calc.
We have stats and pre-calc. We don't have trigonometry.
Okay.
So basically what the theory is.
But I'm just saying, yeah,
Yeah,
you
the
can-
honors classes are the kids that are identified, I don't know how they identify, but I'm assuming it's through testing. I was in that track when I was in 7th grade, so as a 7th grader, we went into what they called algebra half at that time with Mr. Gerard. And the rest of the 7th graders just took 7th grade math. So then in 8th grade, we took algebra 1,
Right.
whereas those kids then were in algebra half. 9th grade, we took geometry, they took algebra 1.
Right,
So that's,
it's like a faster track, basically.
it's a
faster
sooner, faster track. So like I said, I think it's great. It's just my expectation now that those kids are all in one classroom would be that they are accelerated.
I guess I was just asking if there's an opportunity for them to
Not till
continue
they
that,
get older.
but they can still continue that fast track in math if they wanted to.
Yes, so they will, next year they'll go to algebra 2.
Right.
When the other kids will go to algebra 1 or intermediate algebra.
So it's like a different sequence almost. You're not doing algebra 1 before
Right.
geometry.
And so some kids will stop taking math after 10th grade because they'll be done. They'll finish their graduation requirements and they're not gonna take any more math.
Right.
Some kids will continue to take math, and some kids have to take it through 11th grade because they weren't in that fast track. Does that make sense?
Yep, got it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that there was still an opportunity to, if I wanted to take whatever classes, if it's pre-calc, you know, or getting ready for college or getting my AA, that I could still do that.
Yes,
As
so
part
the
of
12th
that.
grade, they can-
Right, right.
You can do that as a junior, probably mostly seniors are probably doing the pre-calc and the calculus, unless you were in that fast track. We do have some juniors taking pre-calc this year.
Missy, you mentioned that you had like a math department that is aligning with the state standards. Like, how does this math department, where is that?
That's
Like,
Jay, Alex, and Derek.
okay.
They just made the decision that they're going to change their scope and sequence. So like, cause there's new state
There
standards are
has been
coming out.
conversations about this then.
Not necessarily about this. This kind of transpired as we were building the schedules. And as you get into 9th grade, you kind of start to get more electives, right? And so we're building the schedules, and every class that's like prescribed to kids really starts to restrict their movement in the schedules. And it's hard when we're in a rural school. I'm sure it's hard for Little Fork too, but when you get a lot of like what we call singletons, like singleton electives, it makes it hard to get kids in those electives that they want because they're maybe offered 1 time a day. And then we have maybe 2 classes that are offered that they have to take, right? So that's kind of how the decision transpired. And then it was just really hard to get those kids into electives. And so you started to look at that, and then you're like, oh, they are all taking geometry right now. So then if we removed that, we were able to get kids into more of the things that they wanted to take. It'll go right back on next year. Obviously, the 10th graders still have that transition, right? But then the 10th graders don't have as many core classes that they have to take. So it's just kind of like a balancing act that you're looking at.
Any other questions?
Do you have anything else that you want to talk
No,
about?
that's my last slide.
So one of the things that I want to address tonight, because we have so many people here tonight, which I first want to say thank you. I think when people show up to have conversation about education is really important. And when it comes to academics, it's always well received because we don't always have people here when we talk about teaching and learning. So I'm grateful that everybody's here. One of the things that I want you to know is I am just getting back to school, so I'm gathering some of this information regarding emails, phone calls. I know the board has also received emails, as has our school principal. So thank you. We've received your feedback. One of the things Principal Tate and I we did spend some time meeting today on some of the concerns that were brought forth. I also have reached out to a number of my superintendent colleagues to gather more information on this. Because of the inability to have significant amount of access to internet and to have staffing over the summer. And I'm not speaking to teachers, I'm speaking of our counseling team, our administrators, and access. We will have further conversation about this. As a school district leader, and I would say as a school board and administrators and our teachers in our classrooms, the goal is always to do what's best for kids. But we have to look at what is realistic and what is not. And this is an area that rural school districts are struggling in, because as we continue to lose students to online schools, we continue to lose students people have to make some tough decisions. We're ending up with 2.5 classroom sections, and we want to make sure that we want to look at, even though we may have been doing something for 40 or 20 years, is it what's best for education today? And I'm not saying this model is or isn't. So I think what we need to do now is we need to gather additional information, have further conversation, because I can see by tonight's presentation, there is some misunderstanding. And there's also questions that we need to have further conversation about. So Principal Tate and I did talk about this today. We will be holding a few meetings and we'll have further conversation. And I know some of you have reached out to me, so I'll look for 1 or 2 board members to be a part of this process. I'm not saying that this is gonna change because this is the roadmap that we have, but I think we need to make sure that we have the appropriate voices heard and the why behind it. Because if we don't educate people on the why, or are we missing something, that we need to have a collective conversation about that, because the goal is not to create dissension. The goal is to make decisions that are best for kids. And I always will go back to that. In addition to, we have to make decisions that are based on data. And so whether it's the construction phase or electives or teaching and learning, if something's worked and we see positive outcomes of that, then we need to continue the course. Although if something hasn't worked and we have to look at student outcomes, we may have to change the trajectory of what that looks like. So we will be having further conversation. Yes, we only have 3 weeks time, but right now I can tell you Principal Tate has revamped that schedule to make sure our accelerated learners are placed in classrooms together. So we will continue to approach this from a solution-based perspective, but sometimes we also as administrators have to make very difficult decisions.
May I? Yeah. Just one summary statement. So I would assume that as we start this school year, that there will be inclusion, as I think there's always been in my years of teaching, that there will be inclusion or a lot of discussion with the teachers involved that are doing these math classes, so they can give input as well. And I also understand that there are times that you, no matter, teachers always want, 100% of everything. And I know I'm a teacher, and then administrators have to look at the budget. So somehow that has to work together, but I've never seen where teachers are not included in the discussion, and I will assume they will be included. Right.
Okay. And Beth, could you talk a little bit more about data and math and what we've historically seen in our school?
So I will give you just kind of a snapshot of what is coming our way, and I will present to the board on our historical data hub when it comes to math, science, and reading, in addition to attendance, out of school principal suspensions, in addition to our MCA participation rates. And Rox and I are also going to be talking about a possible resolution that we're looking at. When we look at academic outcomes, one of the trends that we're starting to see across many school districts, but I'm a school district leader for International Falls Public Schools, and what we're seeing is some of our most academically strong students are opting out of taking the MCAs. And so what we're seeing historically for International Falls Public Schools is we're seeing our outcomes be at, a lower percentage rate when we know that we have higher performance than what those numbers show. So what we're going to look at when we move to our September meeting is to look at maybe the why behind that.
Back that up for a second, because I learned something from you that I didn't know before, that the kids that elect not to take the MCAs are not removed from the total number. So speaking in math terms, your denominator stays the same while kids choose not to take the testing, and so it doesn't count.
So it's a big fat zero.
Yeah.
So what that does is it is a score of not proficient regardless. And, for some people, I do understand, I understand test taking is not fun, but those numbers matter to us because it is an indicator of our performance. And at the end of the day, it is a performance that is looked at as our people who are in our classrooms. And I can speak very highly of the teachers that we have in our classrooms, but we have to look at all the variables that contribute to that. But also we have to look at the variables of if something is not going well, we have to look at the why behind that. And I'm not saying it's in relation to our AP classes, but we can't always continue to do what we've always done if it's the data's telling us it's not working. So I will continue to talk about that in the next school board meeting. But I do want you to know that I want people to know that we hear you, and we will continue to have further conversation on this. So thank you for the emails. And if I have not responded to you to date, I just returned back to work today and I will get back to you.
So can I just wrap it up?
Yeah.
Here's the takeaways that I hear, okay? Parents, I can talk loud. Parents, don't get hung up on the word honors, okay? I'm hearing that efforts are being made to right the situation, and that putting these kids in the same classroom, to me, is a step forward in the right direction. And know that as a school board, myself, I'm gonna put myself out there and say that I will commit that these kids will continue to be challenged in that classroom. So I just wanted to kind of wrap it up and say that, don't get caught up in the honors moniker.
And don't let one obstacle, make everything, like, there are ways. I did independent study pre-calculus. So my teacher taught the regular kids and I did pre-calc as an independent study in the same classroom. Like, there are ways that we can help your kids succeed if they need further education. There are opportunities. So, and we are willing to do whatever it is for those, students. So we may just have to think outside the box a little bit. All right, Molly?
I just want to remind people who are here this evening that we will not make a decision on this formally. It is something we have to bring back to discussion with our committees, and then we'll move forward from there.
Missy, just really quick on your report, when you say advisory, is that like listed in the student schedule as homeroom?
Yes,
Okay, so just so we have that connection for everybody.
yes.
Thank you.
All right, is Molly here? No, okay.
I need to see everybody.
And then we might as well just do first too.
So one of the things that I wanted to bring to your attention tonight is we have some really great things that are happening in our early education center. So there is, as most people know, we have a new playground that will be going in at the early education center. And we have received a number of bids, and it was granted to a company that is getting ready for installation the last week of August, first week of September. We're still waiting on delivery of materials at this time. There was some backdated, equipment, not only for construction as a whole, but also for our infrastructure that will be going in as not only a school district playground, but also a community playground. It will be open to the public, and the Rotary has committed $60,000 to this project. So we're very excited about what is coming, not only to our students at the early education center, but also to our community as a whole. So one of Molly's areas is that her focus really is about children and community. So Molly, Mrs. Larson, is hired as our community education director. She also helps facilitate a lot of programming down at West End for early education. And now she is looking at the childcare, after-school childcare component. That has been really an important initiative for me coming to the district, to make sure we have offerings for families of our students that if they need additional childcare until that 5:30 mark. So Molly and her team have done a significant amount of work collecting data. They've been looking at different platforms for communication. They've been looking at paid scales for the fees that would go into childcare. We've also been looking at opportunities for summer programming. That's one of the areas that was really important to our families, is that, we used to have kids college, we used to have summer programming within our school district as a whole over summer. So what we're gonna pilot first is we're gonna do like a gradual release. We're gonna start our childcare. We're slated to open in September. We have to make sure we're in full compliance before we open the applications to the public. And then we're gonna work through what has gone well, what is areas of challenge,
And then if we have a successful 3/4 of the year, we will be opening summer childcare for our families. In addition to opportunities for our families to have really robust experiences for their kids to have over the summer. So field trips, going to different areas within the community, taking buses, down to the Bear Center and doing some STEAM work. So that math, art, engineering component, and making sure we have music incorporated to a robust summer program. In addition to, we've also talked about how can we incorporate some of that academic intervention work that we would like to see happen with our students. One of the other areas that Mrs. Larson and I spoke about today that she really wanted to highlight is she has interviewed a number of early education, community education, school districts, and what we need to do is we need to realign an online platform for families that is a communication outlet to ensure that it is early education friendly. So she'll be rolling out probably in the next couple weeks an early education online platform where families can see all community education offerings, where you can sign up and pay online versus having to come into our school district. They're looking at, there's going to be an anchor component to that where there's going to be news and views where people are going to be able to see what's happening in our school district when it comes to the early education wing, and people could sign up if they have a community education program that they might like to offer. We're pretty excited about our preschool back to school numbers. We are full in almost all classrooms. I think we have 1 or 2 seats left in our Tuesday, Thursday. We do have a waiting list when it comes to our 4-year-old programming. So as we start looking at numbers, that is our ultimate goal, is to bring some of our students back and to start expanding programming, because as we look at some of the middle elementary numbers, we were in a position that we were looking at moving from 3 sections down to 2 sections because of loss of student enrollment. So obviously the goal is to bring families and students back. We do have an aging population, but we are starting to see numbers take an increase. Just over the last 3 weeks alone, we've registered over 15 new students to the district. So we're very, very excited about that. When we talk about the early education wing, the littles are gonna get new bathrooms. They also have new flooring throughout that wing. And also we are looking at enhanced security because it is a new addition to our district. We want to make sure the infrastructure for school safety and security mimics what we're doing at Falls Elementary School and Falls High School. That is very important, I would say, if not the #1 priority for us as a school district, is school safety. When we talk about community donations, I want to just highlight what Falls Education Foundation and the Knutson Fund, what they have done for this wing of the building. They know it's an expanded area, and a priority area for us is to build a robust early education center. And those 2 organizations have funded a significant amount of new things that we're bringing to that end. And that includes some of the enhanced childcare programs and materials that we needed. In addition to, we are now going to have a sensory room for our students who receive special education services that need that sensory break, and or just a student in general who's really struggling, may have had an outside experience that just needs a different place to either de-escalate, take a break, if the child's struggling with anxiety. So we're excited about that. That will be a new addition to that wing too. This year's preschool team will be Mrs. Walls and Mrs. Bernard in our 4-year-old classrooms, Mrs. Alasky in our 3-year-old, and our early childhood special education teacher will be Mrs. Schwartz. We are bringing back our parent programming, our parent-child, our evening programming. We're super excited about that. Mrs. Line will be doing our parent programming. In addition to, we'll also offer that component where families can come in, parent and child, and we have 2 team members that will facilitate that. That program is slated to start in September, and so information will be coming out soon. That will be new, and we've changed the times based on parent feedback in the community to make sure families who are working until 5 o'clock have access to that. Any questions on West End Elementary? So there's just a few areas that I want to highlight for you from a district perspective. We'll be presenting a lot of data to you in our September meeting. I just want to make sure again that I have the opportunity to speak to staff before it's released to the general public. So I appreciate your patience on this.
So the strategic plan is in its final stages. We are getting ready to have our final meeting in the next 2 weeks. And after that final meeting is done, we're going to be looking at information that is about the decision-making process. So who we're involving in decisions, making sure that they have a seat at the table. And it will really be looking at is to make sure that we have all parties' feedback, even though the decision, what the outcome might look like, might not meet the needs of all people, but that we have all stakeholders have an opportunity to be a part of that decision-making process. So we're excited about that, to go through that final training with Teamworks. In the priority areas for our strategic plan, notoriously the biggest one that continues to come up, and this was a priority when I first arrived, in the feedback that I received in meeting with a lot of stakeholders, community organizations, and staff. And it really comes down to a culture of climate and care for all people who are part of our school community. And what that means is that means our students, that means our families, and it also means our staff, but it also means our community partners. One area that was really important to our community members is that they have the opportunity to be in our classrooms more, working with our teachers, inviting our school community out into the community. And that could be anything from our STEAM classes, having the opportunity to go back in and tour with PCA. The school district has not toured within PCA for the last 5 years. And so Mr. Anderson, this was the first year that was brought back. So we had great conversation with our community partners, in addition to not only how do we go out into bring our students within the community, how can we bring our community partners in? I would say for me as a school district leader, academic, teaching and learning experiences and being aligned to our state standards, obviously that is why we're in the business of education. But as we know, school safety has changed drastically over the last 15 years. And we have a ways to go on that. So that is a priority, hence why we're going to talk a little bit more tonight in regards to the school calendar. One of the things that we know is we have a very aged infrastructure, and we have everything from keys to fobs to windows, and how we check in, check out process, in addition to what does our safety and school security look like when it comes to a violent critical incident versus what does our school safety plan look like if there is a medical emergency in the building. So that is a priority for me. We will continue to hold listening sessions so families are updated on that. And now part of that component is the digital world and the cyber world. So how do we protect ourselves and student data privacy when it comes to cybersecurity, and also when it comes to what our kids are exposed to on platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and really people that are presenting in a way that they're somebody that they're actually not. This is the last school year. This last school year, we dealt with more people masking who they were and reaching out to students under 18 than we ever have before, as young as 3rd grade. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying to educate families, and we're really hoping that families come out and learn more about this. Because it's very, very serious. Some of the things that we saw this school year were quite concerning, and we are not alone when it comes to this. It's happening in schools all across the country, as people are masking who they are and reaching out to our students. In addition to, we also have AI now, and now what is new to the school district, Lisa, Principal West, and I just went to the behavioral threat assessment training. We spent a day on that, and there's going to be new law that is coming out, and schools have to implement a policy and a procedure on behavioral threat assessment. So what that means is making sure our kids are safe in the classroom. What does it look like when it comes to disruptions in the classroom? And then on the flip side, what does a behavioral threat assessment mean if students in our community see something happening? You know, you see something, say something, if a student or an adult or someone in the community is posting something inappropriate about a weapon or something that could happen within the community or within our school. So there's going to be more stringent policy when it comes to behavioral threat assessments that we are mandated by legislation that we have to put in play. And that is going to feel a little bit yucky when you think about it, that we even have to do this in education. But at the end of the day, it's to protect you, it's to protect our children, and it's to protect our staff. But what that means is there's gonna have to be patience and grace granted because it's gonna be more stringent security policies. For example, when you enter our school, you know, we're so used to, and when I went to school, you could walk in the school, you could check in and get a badge. People are gonna have to go through background checks. The other component of the behavioral threat assessment is when you think about the dark web or that underground component to it, we now will have databases that if a student or an adult reports something, it'll go into a database to see if there's other noise happening out in the cyber world that would bring a concern and rise to the level of we would need to involve other parties. It's very uncomfortable to have to talk about, but my hope is that when we get ready to roll this out fully to the school community, our school community members, that families will show up and have conversations because we don't want misinformation out there. We want you to come and ask questions, listen, or most importantly, call me. And I think I've tried really hard to emulate that, is if you don't understand or you're hearing rumors, please just reach out to me. I may not answer you the next day, but I will always get back to you at some point. But school safety is a priority for us. We are actively seeking grants because it's going to be millions of dollars in order for us to change some of the safety components that we need for a school district, but it is also a priority by our state. Last but not least, instructional design. What that means is we've got new standards coming out. When you talk, the new math standards will be coming out. We've got new PE standards that are coming out, and we have to make sure that our school district is aligned with what the expectations are. So making sure we have curriculum that's up to date with what's being put in place by the state, but also possibly changing our practices and how we teach within our classrooms, and also what do our learners look like in our classroom. We have such a vast array of learning styles in our classrooms today that teachers are really tasked with teaching 20 to 30 different learning styles. And that, if you're a teacher, it's hard. That's really hard work. But we are committed to that. And so we've invested in the explicit instruction. We've invested in our school safety training and a number of things, which I'm going to talk about the school calendar in just a minute. Next, I just put on here, social media is a friend and a foe, right? So I just want to make sure that it's communicated really clearly that when we talk about the solar panels that have been put behind Bronco Arena and Falls Elementary, that people know that this was a grant. This was a full grant that was implemented by former Superintendent Grover and one of our board members. And the grant is through the Minnesota Department of Commerce, and it's to help schools, K through 12 schools, and other organizations and schools to look at solar energy. And so for us, this is not International Falls Public Schools spending referendum dollars. And that is misinformation out there. So I really want to make sure that it is clear that we are not spending taxpayer dollars on the solar project.
Say it again.
And it's been hard because there's been some really hard things said out there, but I would rather people call me and ask questions and get clarity than put something online, because that is not true. The exciting part is that's a $500,000 project. But the other piece is the location that it went comes with not just we made a decision to put where it is and we're trying to shut things down. We had to do surveys. We had to look at where are the phone lines, where are the gas lines, where are the specs that it actually can be placed so it's safe. There is fencing going up, so baseballs aren't going to take it out, golf balls aren't going to take it out. But at the end of the day, there had to be some modifications to it. We also could not make it a parking garage. That was not part of the grant opportunity. So I just want to make sure that people understand we have to follow the specs of a grant. When we get a grant, whether it's a grant for school safety, solar panels, there comes guidelines with it, and we have to follow those guidelines or the grant and the dollars are pulled back.
And we couldn't put it on the roof.
We couldn't put it on the roof
Or
because
the area,
construction would not hold it.
Yeah, because there's certain specs that have to be met for your roofing, to be able to hold the weight, blah, blah, blah. That's what
In
happens.
addition to, it has to be used for educational purposes. And I can tell you, our science department is incredibly excited. Our elementary STEAM classroom teacher is incredibly excited to get our kids out there because these are pathways for future careers. Last but not least, Mr. Johnson and I will be working with Rainy Lake Gazette tomorrow and the team that is putting in the solar panels in the Rainy Lake Gazette will do a formal on the solar panels. So please reach out if you have any questions. I told you this would be a long meeting. So another area that I want to talk about is the construction and right, wrong, or indifferent. When you have millions of dollar construction put into play, it is not an easy project, even though it looks incredible. And I cannot wait till the community has the opportunity to come in and see the amazing things that are happening in Bronco Arena, at the football stadium, at Falls Elementary School and Falls High School. It is just the kids that have been here for sports that have been coming in and peeking around corners, the excitement by our students and our staff. Our staff have been, if they can access their classrooms, have been inside. It is so uplifting because what is happening is it's bringing up-to-date opportunities for our kids. So when you think about CTE, when you think about new flooring that isn't cracked and broken, when you think about littles having right-sized toilets, those are really important things for kids when they spend a majority of their day in school. We also have had to do a significant amount of asbestos removal. We've also had to put in sprinkler systems because our buildings are from the 60s. In order to do this work, we have to bring it to full compliance. So that being said, I want to fully recognize, if you have not spoke to me directly, and I want to put this on the record because I feel like I have been as transparent as I can, but it's also going to come with some barriers, and there's going to be misinformation out there, or maybe I have not communicated it in a way that people needed to hear. So I never will take blame. I will never have somebody else take blame for my job. So as a school superintendent, I want to make sure people know that things that have not maybe been communicated appropriately is not the fault of the school board. I will take ownership of that. I will not allow my teachers I will not allow my administrators. We have done our very, very best to communicate what we can when we can. One of the things that has happened this year, which we did not expect this summer, is we did not expect our internet to be down and the cables to be cut in a place that would leave us without internet and modes of communication for the length of time that it has been. International Falls is one of the most beautiful areas you could ever live, although access to get here when it comes to contractors coming in, the people who are awarded bids, in addition to our local business owners, they don't have the capacity sometimes to have a team of 30 people to come in and do the actual work. So we're at the beck and call of how this looks and how it works. In my opinion, the biggest barrier has been the technology piece because it has broke down the opportunities for us to communicate with our school families. So I hear you when you are frustrated. I recognize that. I truly do. I want to just go back to, though, that this is an anomaly of a year, and any organization or any school district that's doing a project this is kind of the stand. I will not say it's going to get any easier tomorrow or the next day, but as soon as we can, we will get the information to you. So that being said, there are a significant number of rumors out there that school is going to be delayed. School is going to have a 2-week online start. All of those things are not true. So when we talk about the school calendar tonight, I have brought up the school calendar a number of times in our school board meetings, knowing fully that though we have an approved school calendar, there could be possible changes that were referendum driven. And what that means is we truly don't know what the actual date's going to be until we know that we're getting close. We do have a deadline, but that being said, things are back ordered, things are postponed. We might not get things up and ready for opening day like we had planned to. That means we are going to open on September 1st still. We are opening in person on September 1st. It could mean certain wings are closed and we might have to take an extra route to get to a different wing. Might mean the bathroom is closed. The things that we are hoping will not possibly ready are simple things like aesthetic, like the trim, maybe a door frame's not painted. But we also have been met with some barriers, things that have been not arrived. But also we've been met with some successes. The elevator was not to arrive at Falls Elementary until September, and it came early, and the installation for ADA compliance for students in wheelchairs will be ready to go on September 1st. So we're very excited about that. The other thing that I want to bring to your attention is, unbeknownst to us, because of a communication barrier, is the original homecoming date fell on a date that our swimmers were not here. And we want to make sure that all kids have full access to the opportunities when it comes to our games and our dances, and that created a really big barrier for our swim team. So we had to have a conversation on, can we move these dates around? So that is why the calendar has been delayed, because I have had to wait for the green light from the referendum team to know that our doors can open. Otherwise, I would have had to propose to the school board that we need to push school back 1 or 2 possible weeks. We know that the decision is in play, and we're moving forward with September 1st. So the school board proposal that you're going to see tonight is a change in not only the homecoming date of when we would be off and when we would not be off, but with the new legislation coming for school safety and the behavioral threat assessment, in addition to our critical violent incident training, we are over minutes because of no more early outs, which I think is really exciting. Our early outs have been taken away. So we have exceeded the instructional minutes that we are mandated to do by the state. So what will happen is we have added 2 professional dates into this calendar so we can get our staff trained on school safety. We have to do that. That is a priority. And I hope everybody will understand that, because at the end of the day, it's about school safety. We rehouse our most prized possessions. So tonight, the school board will be voting on a recommendation I have. The school calendar, everything will be coming out live tomorrow by me. You're going to get a superintendent's newsletter. It will be posted on our Facebook page, and it will come to you in your parent portal tomorrow afternoon, probably in the evening sometime, because I have to do some, I have to cross our T's and dot our I's once the school board votes on this tonight. The only other area that I can tell you that could be a barrier, and we won't know until the end of the week, is when it comes to our back to school bash on August 26th, there may be sections of Falls Elementary that are closed off to the public because there's areas that are just not safe. And until we get the green light from our contractors, that also could happen. I will continue to communicate that information as I know. So to close it up, school safety is a priority for us as a school district, as is the culture and climate, as is our teaching and learning experiences for our kids. And we are modifying our educational frameworks for 21st century learners. When we look at the information that we present tonight, I ask that families truly consider coming to our online community opportunity for families to engage in that and come to a free presentation at the school district. And I also will be holding a school safety presentation to our families so families can understand, because sometimes when you get that school safety email on what it's going to look like in our school, I think it can be really overwhelming for families when they hear about critical violent incident, the Alice drills. And I want to make sure that we're very transparent and have the opportunity to ask questions. So please remember that you can reach out to the school principals. You can reach out to me at any time, and I will get back to you in a timely manner. So last but not least, because of the new guidelines that are coming down by the state, and if you haven't read it, there are a significant number of there's a significant number of research out right now about the volume of media and cell phones and digital materials in our classrooms, and it's starting to shift back to, which we always see, is how much is too much. I can tell you one of the biggest barriers for us as educators is cell phones, smartwatches, and now there's smart glasses. And it shocks me that you wouldn't even know a child has smart glasses on. I wouldn't anyway, I'm not a tech person, and they can be taking video or images of the classroom. So that means your child, that means my child, it means teachers. So there are going to be some stringent policies coming out on cell phones and Google Glasses and smartwatches and AI. It's going to seem like a lot to you as families, but I ask again, please reach out to us so we can help clarify that. But the other thing is we really need our families to be on board with that, because it's taking away loss of instruction time when we tell students to get off their phone in class, because it's not allowed bell to bell. You can't be texting friends and family and taking Instagram photos. So we are asking for your help in helping implement these rules that we're going to be putting in play, and rules across the country. That's changing in policy. We're also going to have some changes in attendance, and that means what does attendance look like in order for a student to participate in activities. We're really following the regional partners, and does that mean your child can't go to a doctor's appointment in the morning and still play in the afternoon? Absolutely not. But we have to get away that you can come to school at noon because maybe you're sleeping in and think that you can play, you've missed half a day of school. So there's some parameters and guidelines about that. That information will be communicated also. New guidelines in school safety, and then in addition to school-specific changes when it comes to new opportunities and electives. In both schools, we've expanded our electives, even at the elementary, for Indian education and Spanish. And last but not least, the calendar, and I apologize for that delay, but it is something we had to wait until we received the feedback that we needed from our project managers on construction. So that is the presentation. I am open to questions.
Anybody have any questions?
Pretty clear. Okay. I guess in closing, I just want to say that I know change is hard, but change can be really exciting. And we will listen, and we'll get together, and we'll have greater conversation. But I also want to say that there's some really great things happening in our school district, and we want everybody to be a part of that and move into a growth positive mindset. And when there's tough times or tough conversations that you feel really passionate about, you can call me, you can call your building principals, the athletic directors, you can call our school board members. Our goal is to meet you where you're at, but also make sure people are getting correct information, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I'm excited about the future of ISD 361, and I really hope all of you are too, because I think there's some really great possibilities ahead.
Yeah, and I know that every single one of us on the board are willing to listen to anybody and sit down, have a conversation. We don't mind. We like hearing what you have to say. Sometimes we might not like hearing it, but we're willing to hear it, and we want to know what you think, and you know, so we can work on it. We're here to make solutions. So, all right. I don't think we have anything for the policy committee. Do you have anything for athletics?
We met in July, but really that covered pretty much every of the track, everything that.
Okay. Legislative, Rox?
Yeah, let's see. A while back, I sent the board all of the changes, the legislative changes related to education that was accomplished by our legislators in Minnesota. And I summarized it, I reworded it to try to help. I put some bold letters in to help look up things and stuff. So, and if anybody at all wants a copy of it, it's summarized as much as I could summarize it, but it's rather interesting to see what our legislators do with all the legislation just regarding education. So then after that, this is the month for resolutions. And last year I submitted a resolution to try to get, with board approval, to try to get less paperwork for early childhood special ed teachers. And I was somewhat disappointed in the fact that the Minnesota School Board Association Delegate Assembly, they vote on all these resolutions to decide how many go to the legislature. I was disappointed that mine or ours was so similar to some of the other resolutions that were made over the years that they just kind of put it together and said, we always are looking to try to do that. However, now I'm back to getting more excited about the resolutions again, because as someone who has personally amended a law, I know how much work it is, but I know how satisfying it is to get something passed that really needs to be passed. And I have written up, based on our work session, I've written up 3 of the 4 resolutions that we discussed. I only wrote up a framework of it, kind of. I first started with some blanks, and then blank forms, and then I put in pieces of information. And we have really up until next month. I have 2 ideas. We have until next month to get these approved by our board. And then I would have, if we wait till next month, I would have 3 days to type them up and submit them, which I can do, just a little bit more difficult. The other thing we could do is possibly decide to give me the go-ahead with a vote, and then to say if, as long as it included the 3 resolutions that I did, included modifying the information once we added more data to it. The 3 resolutions that I did look at, according to our work session, had to do, as many schools have to do, with student behaviors. And another one was, as we talked about, the MCA test scores, or MCA tests. I started writing up regarding the special ed students and the MCA tests. I did not put anything in there yet about non-special ed students and the MCA tests. So that's the second resolution. And the third resolution had to do with trying to keep our the staff on, that we would have enough staff to work with our kids as needed. So those are the 3 things that we have to decide. Are we going to add? We have to have more info and submit them. Does someone want to sit down with the committee with me and do that? Do we want to vote and say, go ahead and submit these after we hand you some more information? I know Beth is planning on helping too. So that's just a discussion. I think you guys all know somewhat what I'm talking about, right? Because
So I don't think that we need a formal vote tonight, as long as the board is in agreement that we can move forward with this. And then what Rox and I would present to the board in September is the actual resolutions. And then if there's any tweaking we want to do those post 3 days, I would say that that would be a good plan in order for us to move forward. But I do agree with the resolutions that she's brought forward per some of our conversations that we've had as a school district.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Everybody okay with it? Thank you, Rox. All right. Next is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
by Rox.
Okay, motion by Rox and second by Tina. Any discussion?
I have questions.
Yes.
Regarding the physical therapy and occupational therapy services.
Yeah, I can speak to that.
Yeah, I just was wondering if there was, what's the difference from last year versus this year? Is it a percentage of cuts?
Yeah, a great question. So I have had robust conversation with Brady Lake Medical Center regarding the structured fee. We also did open it up to see if there were applications, which we'll continue to do in the future. We did not receive any applicants. We did receive applicants, but it falls under the teacher contract. So the people who were offered the positions declined. And so I think what the recommendation by me will be is we have to continue to look at what that looks like for a school-based occupational therapist. So my conversations with Rainy Lake Medical Center is really looking at how and when they service students, in addition to making sure that we have a plan of when they are needed on site, and also looking at a different pay structure. So I'm very comfortable with making a recommendation to continue for the next school year with Rainy Lake Medical Center. There
So
will be
it's
a,
pretty much similar to what it was.
there will be a reduction because the hours will be reduced based on need.
Right. Okay. You want me to ask my question? Okay, the cost of the baseball field for the college for using it, is it a large difference between last year?
It is the same. So one of the things that will happen this year at the end, as we conclude the school year, because Mr. Ringhoffer and I and our Ms. Imhoff are trying really hard to look at different grants and opportunities because we do need to do some upgrades. In addition to really looking at a new funding stream for raising money for the school district through a donor process, is we will sit down at the end of this year and see what dollars have been raised when it comes to grant access in addition to donors. Then our school district team and the college team and their administrators are going to sit down and look at a different pay structure for the following school year.
Okay, I have one. Oh, I guess two more. The changes in the Falls Elementary handbook, there were highlights. Was that the only changes?
Great question. I should have communicated that in my email, now that you say that out loud, so I apologize. The highlights that use the highlighted areas are the changes. Otherwise, everything else is the same.
Okay, and then so the athletics and the high school handbooks, I know the ALC must have been totally, but was the athletics and the high school handbooks, there was no yellow, so.
Very minor changes in those when it comes to times and attendance. So the changes were very minor.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions?
Missy, is there anything you want to add?
All right, since I am actually, part of the consent agenda, I am going to abstain from voting. So I have a motion by Rox and second by Tina to approve, the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstained, I will. All right, motion carries. Move on to action items, improving systems and structures to create a culture where all are welcome and supported, resolution of gifts. Whereas School Board Policy 706 establishes the guidelines for the acceptance of gifts or donations to the district, whereas the International Falls School District Board encourages the support of the district's educational programs through gifts or donations that meet the goals and objectives of the school district. Whereas Minnesota Statute 465.03 states the school board may accept a gift, grant, or devise of real or personal property only by the adoption of a resolution approved by 2/3 of its members. Therefore, be it resolved, the School Board of International Falls Public Schools, ISD number 361, accepts with appreciation the following gifts, donations, or grants received by the school district. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Tony and second by Jess. To accept the following gifts. Volleyball boosters, Falls Elementary Net System, $6,000. Becky Griffin, Bax Class Fabric for classroom use and patterns. Tilson Bay Company, basketball cheer, 67 Bronco t-shirts to give away for the Rainier Days Parade. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right. Whereupon the resolution is declared adopted. All right, 1B, approve the updated 26-27 school calendar. Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
Motion by Tina and second by Rox.
I just want to highlight again that the original calendar had October 2nd as a day off. That will now be a school day to ensure that our students can participate in our homecoming activities, and that has been moved to October 9th. In addition to our school safety training dates will be November 10th and January 19th. Those are the only changes that you will see on this calendar. And again, we are over instructional minutes, and I have added, I know that there was asked that we put the graduation date on the calendar, so that also has been added.
All right, any other discussion? All right, motion by Tina and second by Rox to approve the updated 26-27 school year calendar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approve the resolution awarding the sale of the general obligation facilities maintenance bond, series 2026A, in the original aggregate principal amount of $2,525,000, fixing their form and specifications, directing their execution and delivery, and providing for their payment. Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
Chair Smith, this has to be a roll call vote.
Motion by Dale and second by Jess. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all right. We'll do roll call vote. Jessica Crosby.
Aye.
Dale Johnson.
Aye.
Tony Corpy.
Aye.
Tina Sather.
Aye.
Roxanne Schockstead Deach.
Aye.
Joanne Smith. Aye. All right, motion carries. All right, is that everything? Adjournment, do I have a motion? By Rox. Okay, second?
I'll second.
Hi, Tina. All those in favor?
Aye.